Hello everyone, I am Tacit and welcome to the Gems of War Campaign 27, Week 7. So today, a couple things going on. Of course, most notably, we have ourselves the, well, a couple most notablies. But we still have the Legends Reborn event going on for a few more days. Definitely make sure to go do everything with this. Most notably, do the quest line. You get the early game troop fully maxed out for the +5 for that. All the free ones, of course, is from killing 200 or technically 140 yellows. Probably already have that done, and if not, pretty easy to go get done quickly, which gives you the pet for the epic from the kingdom that you get for free, as well as a bunch of pet food. And of course, the really good category, if you spend 1,350 gems, you end up getting way more than that in Imperials, as well as getting a full set of gold glory orbs, as well as the King Selena's Pet Max, which is the one that gives 50% mana start to all wild folk. So be able to have +5 stats to him is very, very useful. And of course, 2 sets of pet food. But yeah, that's still going on for a few more days. Beyond that, we got a brand new PvP season. Unfortunately, this PvP season is pretty weak. The targetable immortal is one that has lycanthropy gems, which is not something you ever really want on your team. It also had another side troop that ended up coming in, but this didn't ultimately end up getting boost ratio based on attack, armor, and HP, and because of that, it just doesn't do enough damage to really justify it. It also has a weird final trait now since it doesn't have boost ratio based on those. So they ended up changing that last minute and kind of nerfed it into the ground by doing so. And yeah, it's mostly what came in. Of course, we also got the 2 from the shop, but those you don't get till later. And the gold one you should just ignore anyways, but it's like a stunner damage mix for giants. It's okay, nothing that amazing. But in the giant category, it's kind of okay. And this one, which is a very weird utility, there's already a troop that has a 100% chance to bleed and entangle per, I think, extra turn it is. And this one does it based on green only half the time. So it's basically just a legendary version of it while having impervious and a little okay amount of damage. Nothing too out there, but there are some instances where you might use it, like Nexus, for example. But beyond that, yeah, pretty weak like most of them have been in the past. But not the worst thing in the world compared to some things that have been there in that category. Of course, we still need to go get our daily stones. And the main weekly event we have this week is the Journey event. And yeah, we have Urska's for it. Urska is definitely not the strongest category, but far from the worst. Just feed them a bunch of green, just keep spamming whatever we can in that category. Unfortunately, we don't have things like King Mikhail that we could end up doing, but I'm considering just going all in on the weapon. I was going to originally show it for the team video, which we did go over when we were doing it, of course. But the more I've been thinking about it, I think I'm just going to go with the Doomed weapon and just spam the Doom weapon until we end up winning. I was considering Wanda Stars for the extra mana accumulation, but there just isn't enough other damage to really feed into to really justify it. So hello everyone, hello Bill, hello Jets, hello Ron, hello Mulu, hello Yeah, hello Cookie, hello everyone else, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope you guys been having a wonderful week. Also, almost at Valentine's Day. Easter right around the corner. We're almost there. Let's see, we did that. And of course, we have a new Mythic this Friday. Forgot to mention it in the weekly video, but of course, we'll be going over that when it comes out. And of course, did I not mention it yet? Today, speaking of Mythics, we do have something shiny to go over a little bit later this stream. We'll probably do it at the end once we clear out everything. But we have ourselves the evil 6-color dragon. He's basically weaker than anything other than Diamantina when it comes to 6-color dragons, but even weaker than the yellow evil dragon, oddly enough, in most situations. However, he does use 6 colors. He does still have a decent amount of damage. And he does have Cursed Terror, which is not the worst thing in the world. And still has the traits that all the other ones would have. It's not anything too crazy. When you're allowed to use anything, you're always using Stellaryx or Flower Dragon over this. However, there are categories where it's pretty good in, most notably Blighted Lands. And there are instances where you might want to use it for its effect specifically, depending on your overall team comp. If it really needs as a curse option, this needs to be your curse option, just to have like a high use everything kind of mana for it. Plus, of course, it gains a lot of benefits from all the Astral Spires. So once all the Astral Spires are buffed, he will, of course, gain the benefit from absolutely all of them later down the line. But yeah, we'll mess with him a little bit later stream. We'll clear out everything else first, like the Journey event, which I guess we'll start with right now. We did buy all the battles, so we do have a good handful of them to go do. But I do believe, yeah, we're going to go down the Doomed, what's it called, route. Keep forgetting its name. Doomed, I have no clue how to say that. Fachard? Well, we'll go with that. We're running Sentinel. What else do we have in this category that's not awful? Problem is they have to be green, so it really limits what we can end up putting here. Doomclaw, the other guy, neither of them really do much. But I guess we can get a free terror kill, maybe. What is that? Random enemy? Inflict bleed and terror on a random enemy when matching for an extra turn. Sure, why not? Maybe we'll get a terror kill. Better than nothing. Because everything else is not really going to do much. I think that's all we need. Our overall amount of colors being used is really low, though. Only 4. Technically 3 because her ability's not really used that much. Yeah, I guess we're rolling with it. We're running with this like a 1-weapon double damage source kind of setup. Guess we could use them to clean up if we really had to, though. Maybe let's roll with this and we should be fine. Don't think we'd change anything else. We're probably just going to run this the whole time as well. We could switch over to magic, though, if we need. We don't actually need to keep the other stats, like 20% mana start, as our entire team is getting 50% mana started, so we don't really need that. Remember watching us about 3 years ago? Well, welcome back. Hope all has been well. Yeah, we've still been around. Going on a 3-month trip soon, but aside from that, yeah, we've still been doing this every week, as we normally do. What do you think of the... Also, hello, Bruce. What do you think of the next Guild War restriction? Sword's Edge? It's really annoying. We'll be going over it more the week of course. But, yeah, it's one of the weaker restrictions we've had in a long while since the new system. It's not the absolute hardest one we've had, but it's pretty close to the absolute hardest one we've ever had. Definitely not a good one. But, yeah, we'll have to mess with that once it comes around. As long as you have most of the mythics, it shouldn't be that bad, though. Like, the low rarity option for that is very horrifically bad. Like, if you don't have the 50% mana start knight or, like, any of the good mythic knights. Also, you really need the immortal with the invulnerable trait. That immortal is going to be almost on every single team just to try to counter out elementals and similar things. It can accidentally give the enemy barrier, though. But it would be used mostly because of its high amount of immunities. But you need to actually have those immunities unlocked to be able to use them, of course. You almost got Paragon in my guild before me? Well, we did deliberately throw it one week. Though last week we should have gotten it. If I just didn't lose that one final battle, we would have been on track because we did the calculation for it at the end. If I did exactly what we did the other 3 days on the day we lost, we would have won by like 10 points or something. We threw it. Well, we'll get it eventually. Not really in a rush to get it. Which I believe it's the only achievement we don't have yet, though. I think at this point we've caught up with every other achievement. Other than the new Get Paragon achievement, which we have done before, just not since the achievement came out. But I think we're just going to run this team the whole time. It shouldn't really ever fall off. We obviously reach a point where it stops one-shotting. But it has a lot of green loop, because we have 2 things that are just creating a billion green. So once we get it off the ground, we kind of just have infinite green for the rest of the battle. But yeah, all these doomed weapons that boost ratio based on how many allies of a color you have that create gems like this one. Like this category of doom weapon is absurdly good for journey events. They were actually added around the time that journey troops got nerfed into the ground. Assumably as an alternative to the journey troops. Because those 6 weapons are so good for event weeks like this. Because you're already forced to have to use a pure colored team. And these things work really well with a pure colored team. And they kind of just fill everything together. Like, if you have this corresponding weapon for a color just combined with whatever the journey troop is, that's all you need. The other 2 could literally be any green troop in the category and it would be fine. Obviously, them being stronger, like 50% mana start and stuff like this is better. But they could literally be anything that is green within this category and it'd still function pretty similarly. Ideally, we'd have something here that would also have green storm, or, you know, storm to go with it. That's something this kingdom, I believe, does not have. It's very low on storm, just because I believe storms didn't exist when Urska first came out. So there are very few storm troops related to the kingdom. It's also not a particularly storm-heavy kingdom regardless. But it came out before storms were a mechanic. A lot of kingdoms did. But this one in particular, I don't think ever got a storm back. Like, if I go type in storm here, I'm pretty sure 0 will come up. Yeah, 0. At least under green Urska. There might be some on some other color. But green Urskas literally have 0 storm. Of course, you can get it from hero, but then we can't use this weapon. Which we very much do want to use. Yeah, we won every single Guild War last week. I also claimed the other reward off stream, but we did win the one for yesterday as well. I claimed it, you know, before the weekly video thingy. But yeah, we won every single Guild War day last week as a guild. So we got a lot of extra gold marks and everything. Unfortunately, I can't convert them into deed books for a little bit though, because of course we just got a new PvP season as of today, so I do need to go get 20,000 points before we do that. Which realistically we won't have until next week. I generally don't do like a mega rush for it at the beginning. I just wait like a week or a few weeks until we, you know, get them naturally over time just by doing dailies. And this season's definitely going to be a pretty bare minimum daily for PvP. It's a pretty bad season compared to last season. Especially if you compare it to last season, just because last season was pretty much the best PvP season we ever had. Followed by one of the worst we've ever had, which is this current season, as far as, you know, how viable the troops are. Because they nerfed the one true damage one, or actually they're both true damage, but you know what I mean. They nerfed the one Taurus one before it came out into the ground. And the main one for this season is the Lycanthropy one, which doesn't even feed into his own color. He creates 2 purple gems every single turn, but him himself does not even use purple. It's a really weird troop. And of course, just having to deal with Lycanthropy gems is never good. Because they can be bad both ways. They can give the enemy more durability, because they could be nearly dead but then get transformed. But of course, then your own team can also be transformed with it if they don't have immunes. So not only do you have to play around it backfiring, but you also have to play around it, even if it works on the enemy, it could end up buffing them instead of nerfing them. Yeah, Lycanthropy has always been a really annoying bad mechanic. It still to this day is the worst gem we've ever had like that. And it made people not really like power gems initially, because that was one of the first events they did, was a Lycanthropy event for 10 weeks, where a bunch of Lycanthropy gems were falling from the sky. Which was a very annoying 10 weeks, because you had to deal with it with every battle you ever did. And they appeared pretty commonly as far as falling from the sky as well. That's one nice thing about this weapon is it does hit the first 2 enemies regardless of where they are. So in that situation, they were in 1st and 4th slot and it still hit them. Yeah, generally, any weapon that's like this has an absurdly high mana cost. Because not only is it 18, but it's 18-1 color. When you compare that to something like this is technically an 8 mana cost troop, even though it's 24. But if you're evenly distributing your mana to everything, you know, with like an explode option or something similar, this is technically only an 8 mana cost. And same as when you compare it to, you know, 6 color troops, if they have like a 36 mana cost. You know, it's only like a, what? That's also an 8. 8 times, what, 6? Math. Why can't I math right now? No, that's 48. But, you know what I'm trying to get at. Like, basically, anything's mana cost is you divide its amount of colors into its number, and that's technically what its actual mana cost is, if you're evenly distributing everything. Obviously, that's not always how you're mana accumulating. Like, for this team, that it actually does matter what their mana cost is, because we're doing gem spam, not explodes. But if you're doing mass destroy, mass explode, stuff like that, you're generally getting a pretty even number of every color. And because of that, you can basically just divide the number of colors that a troop is, and that's their real mana cost. It's one of the reasons why 6-color troops are so strong. Because if you're not blocking any of their mana, a lot of them are only like, what, 6, 7, 8 mana costs, effectively. Assuming you're evenly mana accumulating for every color simultaneously. Which a lot of times you are with meta teams. With like mass explodes or wish gems or, you know, other similar mechanics. So how's this the thing of all things that keeps getting full mana? I just have that there mostly for stats effect, not even because he has an ability that's okay damage. Yeah, hello, Clip Bomb. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, doomed weapons are kind of all over the place. Some Doom weapons are, you know, some of the best weapons in the game. Other Doom weapons are just horrifically bad. Because they're not really balanced that well for the fact of how hard it is to fill one single mana that high. Like, this weapon's pretty decent because it kind of feeds all of its mana back into itself, so its high mana cost is kind of justified. But a lot of the other ones, for like 18 mana cost and similar, do almost nothing for that mana cost. Where they're so hard to use, but then also do almost nothing in return for that hard usage. There's only a good handful of Doom weapons that actually do anything worth their mana cost. This is one of the few that is. I don't know, hopefully we'll see another good category soon, because the most recent few categories have been pretty lackluster. Problem with that is whenever we get a new Doom weapon category, we're stuck with it for like half a year. Because of course they do one for every color, so that's like half a year of them just adding a bad weapon. But it's also half a year of them doing a good weapon whenever it's actually something viable. But I forget how many more we have for the current Doom weapon cycle. We're sure there's an easy way to keep track of it. I want to say we're like 3 or 4 Doom weapons into the current set. I'm pretty sure somewhere's around there. So we're a couple of months from getting a new Doom weapon available. But yeah, as soon as we finish out this and all dailies, it shouldn't take too long. We'll mess with Evil Dragon for the rest of the time then at the end. There isn't too much we're really going to need to mess with him, though. Because he's almost just a weaker version of the Yellow Dragon, which is kind of sad. It's the only time where one of the non-final dragons, or, you know, one of the just single-color dragons is actually stronger than the 6-colored one. It's really weird. Because most of them are set up to utilize their utility. So how useful their utility is kind of determines how good they are. And his utility is not that good. Which is, puts him in a really weird position, because even though he's the 6-colored dragon, he just doesn't do that much. Like, it's still slightly better than Diamantina, but barely. Yes, hello, Cookie! Welcome, welcome. Alright, I'll put that one down. Surprised that was enough damage. Yeah, how's the guild doing for score? Not too bad. Still got a wall of 0, but it is day 1 after all. Hopefully we don't have a struggle trying to get the last points again. With how far we are, it seems like we should be fine. We've been having a couple problems with some of the events lately. Some people slacking a bit. Hello, Chris. Welcome, welcome. Oh, so speaking of viable troops, do we know what the Mythic does this weekend? I can't remember if we've checked it yet. I kind of want to peek at it. Let me go check it real quick. Oh, let's see. That's the calendar, of course, for the month. What I want to go check, though, is not that one. I'm going to actually get rid of that. Here it is. Where's the home page? There it is. This should be the Mythic coming out this Friday. It deals magic plus 4 heavy splash, so 75% to adjacents, to an enemy, boosted by my armor. Ooh, another armor boost ratio troop. Then stun and knock them to the back. Interesting. This reminds me of Paladin, but a Mythic version of it. This is basically Mythic version Paladin. Also has 50% score reduction instead of 25% on Paladin. And gains 3 armor when matching brown gems, which isn't a lot, but, you know, any bit for its 1-to-1 ratio is not that bad. But, yeah, this thing's okay. Really high mana cost for no board control, but it's basically a Mythic version of Paladin. Which, interesting, because Paladin, I believe was at launch, still had this ability. I forget if they ever tweaked it some. But, he's been around since day 1. I forget if his ability was always exactly the same. But he has a 1-to-1 boost ratio based on his armor, and he hits an enemy really hard while having a small amount of score reduction, you know, some other stuff. But, yeah, this is why I compared it to him. Because he has a 1-to-1 armor boost ratio, and he hits a single target. This also has a 1-to-1 boost ratio, hits a single target, except it also does 75% damage to the 2 adjacent enemies. It also has 50% reduction instead of 25. It also gains armor instead of the other one that actually doesn't gain any armor, I don't believe. It has air link though, which is nice. But it doesn't actually have any armor gain. But I think this used to be reinforced or something that gave him a little bit of armor at one point. Instead of Dragon Slayer, I can't remember. But, yeah, it's basically just Mythic Paladin for, like, double the mana cost. It's okay. It's very situational. Like, I don't think you're going to be using this over Rowan or Tesla in most situations, but it's definitely usable. You would definitely use it within the Kingdom. It is really good within Kazale, which, of course, is where it's going to be the one dwarf location. This is a really good Kazale troop. I believe there's some ways to even increase your armor in that Kingdom, too, so that'll be even better for him. But yeah, it's not bad. It's very situational, but it's definitely usable. Biggest issue with them, of course, is if he loses his armor, he loses, like, almost all his damage. But that's the case for, like, any armor boost ratio troop, pretty much. But yeah, it's not bad. It's still weaker than Tesla, though. But there are situations where you would bring it out over Tesla. Mostly when you're not allowed to use Tesla. You know, every situation where you're not allowed to use her. But no, it's not a bad troop, though. It's basically just Mythic Paladin. It's like modernized Mythic Paladin. And that's the Mythic we're getting on Friday. The main thing that's going to make it viable is I'm pretty sure it's the highest damage per cast of anything in all of Kazale. By quite a margin, actually. It's a very decent amount of damage. Hopefully it doesn't get nerfed before release, I know, right? No, that definitely doesn't seem like something they would nerf. If anything, they need to buff it some before release. It falls in the category of the troop has no follow-up, so it's probably not going to get used kind of category. You use it for Dwarf, you use it for Kazale, but beyond that, I don't think you're putting it in a general team. It's too high of a mana cost for no follow-up whatsoever. If it had like an on-kill effect or something similar, it'd be usable in like a general team. But doing absolutely nothing when it does its ability, or, you know, after its ability is kind of weak on them. Like Tesla and stuff can get away with it because the sheer damage is so high that it doesn't matter. That it doesn't have any follow-up at all. But it kind of does matter for him to not have follow-up. Because you're realistically only ever using it for Kazale and Dwarf. There's not really a single other instance you'd bother bringing him out. He's really good in those categories, but you're not really using him outside those categories. So we'll get to use him eventually when those events cycle back around. But other than when we show him for the Mythic video, we might not use him again for like half a year. Until he gets like an event or something where we can viably use him. That's another issue that's starting to happen with just the sheer amount of troops that are in the game. There's over 1,500. So some troops you bring out like one week out of a year or something. There'll be like a single week out of the year where like a specific troop is like really good for a certain instance. And then it'll be put away and shelved all the way until the following year when another event similar to it comes out. There's a lot of troops in that category these days. Luckily, it costs almost nothing to max out a troop, so that's not really too big a deal most of the time. Compared to some other games where it costs like 1 billion resources. Because getting and maxing a Mythic or a Legend or something similar is pretty easy to do. Especially with all the orbs and everything else like that. The hardest thing, of course, is like the elite levels and stuff like that, but even that's becoming easier these days. Like, I think I have on reserve like 70 Mythic upgrades ready to go whenever good Mythics finally come back into the game again. Which is something we haven't actually had for a while. feel like we've been on a little bit of a dry streak for good mythics. Not counting the Immortal we just got from the last PvP season. That's like the best thing ever. But that's an Immortal. That's a different category. As far as like actual like, you know, monthly mythic or something similar, it's been a good while since we've had a good one. Like a really, really good one. Like one you would legitimately use like every day kind of mythic. It's been a little while since we've had something like that. We've gotten decent mythic since then, but I can't even remember the last like really, really, really good one. Not counting the Immortal. Because technically last PvP season we had the best Immortal to ever exist. Technically Ossifer is as well, but Ossifer was never targetable. Or, you know, directly targetable. Whereas the Troglodyte guy was, the Goblin guy. Oh, that's a lot of skulls that just denied like every color I needed. Well, so this thing does like no damage, by the way. I'm mostly just using it to remove barrier or to try to chip damage something down when it's like right at kill range. I might have actually lost score there. I forgot. Doesn't Journey penalize you for taking too many turns? I know the threshold for it's really high, so it takes a while before you start losing it. But you do start losing score in this game mode if you take too long. You also lose score for every troop that dies, if you don't resummon them by the end. But the main thing that tends to lower your score is going too slow. As there is a certain threshold where you start losing a point per turn. Oh, that missed. That's not ideal. But I think we have enough damage to win. We just got to do the... oh, nice! Hey, Terror Mechanic did something. See, the Evil Dragon could do that later. It actually did something. Of course, we didn't do it off of Evil Dragon, though we did it off of this guy's thing, but... yeah, we actually got a kill. It was inevitable that would happen eventually, but yeah, we finally got a Terror kill. That's kind of the whole reason we have him on the team. He's just the small chance that he might actually do that. And his ability's okay damage. Nothing like crazy high, but it gets the job done for this event. Definitely not something you would use if you're allowed to use anything, but you know, for this current restrictions, okay amount of damage. All PvP mythics have to be meh. I do feel like they have like a strong troop quota though of some kind or something. Because I feel like the number of good glory troops and the number of good mythics we get per year is always about the same very low number. It feels like they just make everything like generic horribleness. And then they have like a few threshold that they're allowed to make really, really, really good every year. Because some of the troops just have such a disparity between how strong they are. Like, there's all of them that, like, follow this curve of being really average. And then there's, like, a few every year that is just, like, way above the average line. Like, absurdly, absurdly so. Like, there's some below it as well, but, you know, the ones that matter are the ones really above. But it's only ever a few glory troops and a few mythics per year. And now we probably don't get one for a while either, because we just got the Goblin guy last season for PvP. So now they gotta give at least like 2 or 3 months before we get a good mythic for a month. Not that the one that's coming out this Friday is bad, it's just, you know, it's not really good. It's usable, at least. Which is, I think, the bare minimum every mythic should at least be, if nothing else. They gotta at least be usable in one situation. If it's just dead content on release, why even add it? Like, for other categories, it kind of makes sense, but why add a mythic that's just dead content on day one? At least the mythic we're getting this Friday, there are use cases for it. It's very rare. You'll use it like once or twice a year, but you would use it. It's just very rare it would come around. Mostly Keyzale and Dwarf Restriction. But it's not strong enough to be used in a general team. Some things just get power crept out of the game eventually, though, as well. Like that Dragon Soul that we just killed. There was a time that every team ran Dragon Soul. Because not only did it cap out your souls after a few casts, but 20 damage to all enemies per turn was actually considered good at one point. We're talking like, you know, several years ago. When souls actually mattered to farm, and when 20 damage per cast was actually considered a decent amount of damage. But that was just like laughably bad. There are quite a few troops in that category, where even though they haven't been changed at all, the power of the game is just curved so much that they're just never used, despite them never being nerfed. Oh yeah, isn't this the Poison Gem season? I almost forgot about that. I saw a Poison Gem fall from the sky. It's like, wait, what? But then I realized, oh yeah, we're still in the Poison season. This is one of those event gems that it's very, very unintrusive. I keep forgetting it's even Poison season until when the troops come out and has Poison Gem. And it's like, oh yeah, Poison season. I also feel like they've been making the power gems fall way less frequently during the season. I feel like earlier seasons, they fell so often. Whereas later seasons, the rate that the power gems fall into the board is really, really, really low. Like, we can go a whole battle without a single poison gem falling here. How many more battles do we have to go through? We'll go check after this. Luckily after today, we should barely need to touch it for the rest of the week. Oh, so this is going to be the only Gems of War stream throughout the week, though we will be covering the Mythic, of course, when it comes out on this Friday. I will still be doing a few other streams potentially throughout the week, though. I'm finishing some kind of clan bingo event for one of the other games we don't normally stream too often on the channel, but I still kind of keep up with here and there. For old school RuneScape. We ended up winning the last one. It was a 4-day event. I didn't bother streaming any of it. But I won about like $80 worth of in-game currency. Actually wasn't that bad. Especially for how short it was compared to how big the reward pool was. But yeah, I'm doing it again. Reward pool is quite a bit smaller this time around, but it's still been pretty fun. I'll probably stream some of it either tomorrow or sometimes throughout the week. Also, we are winning by so much. Actually, do I have to copy-paste for it? I think I do. Let me go get it real quick. It's really funny. This is what the scoreboard currently looks like. Pretty much this entire time, we had more points than the other two teams combined. They even had to change how the scoring system worked. Because there was a scoring system where the first team to finish out a row ended up getting extra points, which ended up ultimately giving us like 32 extra points. But they had to change this to allow it for any team instead of just first team. Because we were just so far ahead that it was kind of unfair. Even right now, we're the birds, by the way. We're still almost more points than both of them combined, even after this change. And before this change, we were perpetually more than both the other two teams combined. But, yeah, we'll be messing with that tomorrow. It's basically just a bunch of stuff that you would do in-game. And you just get points for on, like, a bingo board kind of style board. It's pretty fun. Still going on for, like, another 4 or 5 days. Though we basically already won. It's basically already over. It was over within like 12 hours. Like within the first day, we already won. I'm not sure how much I'm getting for it, but it's anywhere from like $20 to $50 of in-game currency for an event that took like 1 day to win. And the rest has kind of just been for fun beyond that, just because we're in such a lead. I'll probably stream it some tomorrow. Might as well. Because I didn't stream any of the previous one. It's a pretty small reward pool, but you have to keep in mind it's like a 38-player team. So the reward pool per player is like really low because of that. Just because the team is so big. But we'll stream it a little bit tomorrow. But at this point, it's pretty much already over. Even though the event's like halfway done, it's the score is just insane. But it's all the people in the game who's never died. It's a hardcore bingo event where pretty much every player is a 1 life account. Oh, what do we have here? I'll take that one over. And there we go. Alright, we got a dozen battles left. We're almost there. We're making pretty good overall progress for the event. Actually surprised our score is so high already. Let's add some extra people going for tier 6 or something. Because we're like surprisingly close to done on day 1 already. Relative to some of the other weeks we've been having lately. Oh, what do we need here? Take that one over. So I thought that was Great King for a second. I was gonna say I need to kill him immediately. But that's not Great King, that's a different king of some kind. Yeah, Great King can be really scary. Whenever the enemy wants to actually use it correctly. Like if the enemy hits green when we're using a pure green team, that'd be so bad. Like if the enemy had Great King and it hits green and just silences our whole team, stuns, drains them. Oh, freeze. Not ideal. This team is really bad against freeze since every single thing is green. Oh yeah, you know what? That's something we're going to have for game modes like this soon. By this Friday, we're going to have cleanse. The next upgrade I'm going to be doing for Astral Spire is the 20% cleanse. I'll be able to show it some in the Mythic video this Friday. Unfortunately, this new Mythic doesn't really need to care about cleanse that much. But we will have it by this Friday. Alright, these teams are starting to slightly fall off. This is the big issue with the Journey Troop nerf that they did ages ago. We're starting to reach the damage range where they just do not do enough damage. And there's really no solution to it other than, you know, hope there's something else on your team that can do damage. Which reason to Doomed Weapon for at the moment for. Because we're really starting to reach the point where it just doesn't cut it anymore, the Journey Troop damage. Also doesn't help if he misses every time from having such a low gem spawn number. something else that was nerfed on them. Their mana cost got raised by a lot, and their gem creation got nerfed by a lot. Even at max shininess, they still create less gems than they did before. Though, that does remind me, though. You know what mechanic we haven't picked up yet that maybe I'll go for next, instead of focusing on magic? We still have not gotten the permanent +1 gem spawn. That would be a way to try to fix it. We have yet to claim the +1 permanent gem spawn that we'd be able to use for game modes like this and every other game mode. Oh, there's that one, mythic that no one has. The guy for 2,500 this season. That is definitely not worth going for. None of them have been, ever. Because you're just wasting too many deed books. But, yeah, the first time we got to see him. He didn't get to do anything, though. It's not mini! Welcome, welcome. But yeah, maybe we should go for that next. Because that's really, really, really strong for journey events. For a lot of things, but particularly for journey events. As it makes a team setup like this, both create one more gem. It's under the brown tree. Right over here. I forget exactly where it is, but somewhere's here. Yeah, right over there. How many do we have to spend? Let's go do some math real quick. Ooh, you know what's bad about this? We get 0 magic on our way there. It's not ideal. But we'd have to spend 200, 400, 500, 600, 800, 900. You'd have to spend 1,200 while gaining 0 magic the entire time. But if you were to spend that 1,200, you would get yourself the ability to create one more gem from all spells that create gems. So if we create 10 green, it's now 11. If we create like 5 stars, it's now 6. If we create 7 and 7 stars, it's now 8 and 8. It's really strong, but it's 1,200 stars with no magic on the way. It's pretty expensive, but it might be worth going for. It's absurdly good for journey events and, you know, just any team that's really gem spawning a lot. Of course, it does absolutely nothing if you're not spawning any gems, but this works on everything, not just browns. This works on every troop in the game. But it only works in, well, it works almost everywhere, just not Guild Wars and Arena. But yeah, it's really strong. I'm not sure if I want to spend 1,200 to get no magic and to get that, though. At least not yet. But if we spend an extra 100, we do get a magic from it. So for 1,300, we would get this ability and the extra magic. Oh no, it might be worth it. I'll consider it once we finish out our current cleanse on this Friday. But I might go for the extra purple magic. I'm not sure yet. But that perk right there would be so good for journey events. Just because you tend to be using gem spawn for journey events rather than other mechanics a lot of times. Not always. But a lot of times it's really gem spam heavy. Which would benefit greatly from having one extra. As well as every team that we ever run that uses such a mechanic. We definitely want it eventually, obviously. Just, do we rush it or do we go for it later? Because obviously we're going to get it at some point. It's really, is it high enough priority to go for, like, immediately? Oh, why did I do that? Oh, well, we got the Terror kill. That works, I guess. I could have killed it with the Journey Troop there, but Terror got it. Yeah, we'll have to consider if we're going to want to do that starting this Friday or not. We have to give up a lot of magic to be able to do that. But one extra gem spam is really, 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 really strong. The only problem is there's a lot of teams that you would use that don't do any gem spawns at all. So even though it's strong in several instances, there are a lot of teams that use it like none at all. Like literally 0. It does make me curious to see what the other kingdom upgrades will be, though. Because every single time we get a new kingdom, Astral Spire thingy that they're going to be doing soon, or eventually, or whenever they're getting around to it, they're going to have attached to them 2 buffs that will always be applicable, or maybe even 3 buffs. They basically all have 3 buffs that would always be attached to them. Because the other ones aren't going to have the Mana Surge one. So they're going to have the Capstone in the middle and the 2 gold buffs. That's a lot of really, really, really good buffs. That will work on every team forever. Can the Doom loop? Yes. It's not the most consistent thing at looping, but it can. It works a lot better when the enemy also uses the color. The existing boost ratio is also based on enemy green, not just our own green. But a boost based on our green and the enemy green. So whenever the enemy team has like 3 or 4 greens, it can kind of loop pretty well. In an ideal situation, you'd have 4 of one color on your team and then 4 on the enemy team. So if the enemy team was 4 green while we're running pure green as well, this weapon is really, really, really good. But it's more so just average in a situation like this. But average is still one of our best damage sources when, you know, we have a kingdom restriction like this, where our options are quite a bit weaker on average. Ooh, I need those. Hopefully it doesn't get them. Nice, nice. We can work with that. Creating all the potion gems we need to get all of our mana. I forget if that one always creates green, but really lucky if it's % chance. Though it might always, I actually don't know. The troop is like almost never used. As I say, I was hoping he would cascade the skulls there. That's why I didn't want to take that one move. So we had enough damage to kill him after. Looks like we got about 10 more battles left. And then we'll clear out all the other dailies real quick and then mess with Evil Dragon for a little bit. But I don't think there's going to be too much we really need to mess with him though, but we definitely will give him a shot. Because we kind of already know what's going to happen with him. So thank you, Jason, for the continued support. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. And welcome, welcome. Also nice, 69 months to support. Good number. In the purple tree for Astral Spire, there's a +1 to all skills multiplier times. That seems silly, but in all color trees could potentially be kind of strong. For whatever reason, it's only in some trees. That's one thing that really threw me off initially. Is only some trees have the +1 to all stats. It's also only applicable to the color, not to all troops. So that one in purple tree is only applicable to purple allies. But any of the buffs are applicable to all. But any of them that say stats are only applicable to the color. And same will likely be the case when they do kingdom upgrades. Where all the stats, and if they have +1 to all, will only be applicable to the kingdom. But any of the effects, like the capstone or the gold ones, will be applicable regardless of if they're from the kingdom or not. Which is the main thing that makes new Astral Spire so strong. Is even if they do a Merlantis Astral Spire and, you know, you're not running a Merlantis team, you might still permanently gain like a new way of doing Submerge, a small chance or something. These are likely to be themed around the kingdom. It's like something like Merlantis would have some kind of Submerge buff. Something like Bright Forest might have Fairy Fire, stuff like that. Something like the Dwarf location might get like Barrier. There's a lot of different things they could do for them. I've already seen what they did with all the color ones, of course. Some of them have some pretty nice mechanics. Some of them are too niche to really bother using, though. Like the 15% chance to get an extra turn when you take a skull. Like, it's not bad, but it's way too niche. There are some skull spam teams that may, like, once per battle get a free turn where they shouldn't have. But it's very, very, very niche. Because generally when you're doing an infinite skull spam team, you're trying to land extra turns the whole time. It's very rare that you just go for a 3 match. Because in situations like that, you're better off just going for mana a lot of times. Because getting your skull loop going back is better than just taking a 3 skull normally. Alright, don't summon, don't summon, don't summon. $69-month anniversary, no Lester in chat. Yeah, I'm really curious to see what kind of buffs they're going to do when they start doing kingdoms. Also curious what kingdoms will end up being first. If they do it like they normally do, Broken Spire is probably going to be the first one. Though it would be funny if they did it entirely in kingdom release order. They've done that quite a bit with factions, but they've never actually done that too much with kingdoms, other than always starting with Broken Spire normally. But it would be funny if they went Broken Spire, then Adana, and, you know, kept going down the line. Though one pretty noteworthy thing about Adana, though, if we ever do get an Adana Astral Spire, Tesla gets buffed through the roof. As you're very likely to get a lot of armor, and of course Tesla is from there. The only problem is if they do a mech-specific buff, she doesn't really gain much of a benefit from it. But any stats that get applied to Adana, every little bit of armor she'll end up using. Because it would apply to her, because she's from Adana. And there's some other funny ones that can happen like that too, like Nexus giving Flower Dragon a ton of stats. As if it doesn't already have enough stats. Estella Defiant, welcome, welcome. Well, technically there was 15 First Kingdoms in the game. There was like a whole array of First Kingdom. But there was like a certain order that the storyline kind of went through. That went like Broken Spire, Adana, Zolkiri, and kind of, you know, kept branching off from there. I forget how the current leveling system works for Kingdom Unlocks these days, but there used to be like a very specific path that you kind of had to take. That kind of set up like the Kingdom order in a sense. But no, the first 15 Kingdoms all came out at once, so there wasn't really technically a first in that regard. But there were mechanics in the past that kind of moved them in a certain way. That kind of set the kingdoms in a certain order. But yeah, every single one of the first 15 kingdoms, let's see, can we figure them out? Should be pretty easy to figure out. Let me start counting. It's, let me start doing it from the edges. It'll be a little bit easier. It was Sword's Edge, Pride Lands, Golvania, Zhejian, Pansvale, Kazil, Whitehelm, Kedar, Forest of Thorns, Broken Spire, Karkaroff, Mist of Scales, Zolkiri. Okay, I'm missing 2. Divinian Fields. And what one did I skip? Did I do Pride Lands? Because it's also Pride Lands. Did I not count Pride Lands? I'm not sure which one I didn't count. I think it was Pride Lands I didn't count yet. And then Pride Lands, I think. Well, Pride Lands definitely is one. I forget if I counted it earlier or not. But those should be the 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops. 7. I mentioned Whitehelm. Whitehelm's 1. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. What do I keep getting 14? What am I not counting? Because Stormheim, I'm pretty sure, was the 16th. This was the first ever new kingdom add to the game. It was originally supposed to come with launch, but they had to delay it a few months. And then came out a few months after launch. But Stormheim was the first ever new kingdom add to the game. I started them, you know, adding a new one every so often. Until they kind of stopped doing that because there's too many kingdoms in the game. But anyways, let's go back to finishing out the event. Which reminds me, we haven't had a new kingdom for a very long time. This is actually the longest time we've ever gone without getting a new kingdom or new Underspire. Because for some amount of time, obviously, Underspire, or Underworld, I mean, was replacing out the new kingdom system. But I believe right now we are in the longest duration where we have not gotten a new Underworld or a new kingdom. Where neither mechanic has happened. Because I think we're around the 3-year mark now or something. It somewhat makes sense why we're not getting new kingdoms, though. They're at the point where they kind of can't. Because the current system just is already so elongated. It would also be so hard to catch up any new kingdom to where every other kingdom currently is. Like, you know, troop-wise, content-wise, everything like that. Even some of the more recent ones are still miles behind, like Volpecia and Nexus and stuff. Like, so far behind compared to the average kingdom. I think I can even consider Midnight. Midnight was the most recent kingdom added to the game a couple years ago. And it has, like, 0 troops currently. I think it legitimately has less than half of some kingdom's total number of troops. It has so few. Oh, you guys still have snow? Oh, wow. Though I did get snow for the first time in several years in this area. But our snow's been gone for a very long time. Alright, 4 battles to go. And we hopefully shouldn't really need to deal with this weekly for the rest of the week. Obviously, we'll help out the guild near the end if we still need points, but this should cover most of our contribution for the week. That's one nice thing about buying tier 6 on day 1. Is we could do the whole weekly in like a single day. And if we have to do more battles at the end, we just do more battles on the weekend then. So hello, Jackie. Welcome, welcome. Does the +1 gem creation work on hero as well? I believe the answer is yes. There are a few weird things that do and don't work with hero, but those effects do and should work on hero. So yes, that should increase Wanda Star's gem creation by 1. I'm not 100% certain on it, but I'm pretty sure it does. It would also make this weapon create 1 more gem and, you know, stuff like that. But I'm like 90% certain it does work on hero. All the stats, oddly enough, do not. Like, if we were to run, like, green extra stats, it would not work on this weapon. But I'm pretty sure all those other effects, like gem creation and stuff like that, do work on hero. There's, like, weird exceptions as far as what does and doesn't, but that one should. But I wasn't in the beta, so I have no clue. Because I haven't actually gotten to test it yet. Actually, we'll be able to test the cleanse on Friday, though. Because I want to see if it works through stun. Though that will take a lot of battles to test properly. But I want to see if it ends up working through stun or not. Just like normal cleanse does. Because if it does, you basically never need to set Orpheus Medal ever again. Other than maybe for Guild War defense, I guess. Because that basically covers using Orpheus Medals. And they can't even be stunned like Orpheus is. Assuming they can't be stunned. Anyways, let's go clear through all of the dailies. So dailies over here, check. Campaign, oh yeah, I need to go get more later. Wait, they added VIP keys here? Since when? When was that there? I know they've reworked this quite a few times. Weird. Yeah, well, we'll claim those later. Journey, we just did it. We're good to go. Legends Reborn, I already did it earlier. Don't forget to go do it in the next few days, though. It kind of came out of nowhere last week. Let's go to daily dungeon. Gotta still, oh yeah, I already bought my Dragonite because we're gonna go get the dragon soon. Oh, can we get a perfect, though? Oh, back-to-back perfect days would have been so nice. Not today. All right, let's go clear through all these. Clear through PvP real quick, and then I guess we mess with Evil Dragon for the rest of the time. I'm not sure what I want to mess with him with, though. He's just in a really weird category. Maybe I'm going to use him with all the other 6-color dragon just to see them side by side. Obviously, that's not a particularly viable team, but I kind of just want to see what all of them look like. Now that we officially have enough to make a team of 4 dragons that are all 6-colored. Which actually the first time we've been able to do so. You could technically have done it if you set Dragon Guard as your hero class when Flower Dragon came out. But as far as having 4 actual 6-colored dragon, it hasn't been possible since Evil Dragons earlier this year. And now that we're finally getting it as of today, it'll be the first time we can actually build a 4 6-colored dragon team. It's not viable to do that. However, we can, so we're going to. So we'll go check out what that looks like. Yeah, that way we can see what all of them do side by side and just kind of compare them a little bit better. But a long story short is Flower Dragon and Stellaryx is like a mile above the other two. Alright, that's everything we need here. Alright, let's go clear our PvP real quick. Also, since I'm probably delaying the Underspire, let me just go get our free Underspire stuff we need. I was going to do one quick battle. We're likely just doing bare minimum again this week. But we will bring out this team right over here. Go over there, go to Underspire. I just want to take the one battle so I can go get the Lantern. I'll save the rest for later in the week. Alright, we'll take that. Oh, I should have taken that for extra turn, but I guess it doesn't matter because we got it from Sky. And there we go. King Mikhail doing King Mikhail things. No deed book. And give me that Lantern so I don't forget it later. Alright, there we go. Alright, the rest we'll leave for now so we can get to the Evil Dragon quicker. Alright, we just gotta go clear through PvP real quick. Oh, wait! We gotta get Evil Dragon now. Hold up. Wait, we gotta go do it. Wait, never mind. Scratch that. We're doing Evil Dragon now. We gotta go run Evil Dragon and 4x Dragon restriction. Wait. We gotta go get him. There it is. The Pandemonia. Craft. There he is. New. Nice. Let's go get him maxed. Alright, collection. Upgradable. Let's see. But yeah, we went really dry for this. We went 22 Evil Dragons. Not as dry as we did on Gem Dragons, but as far as gem cost, we actually spent more for this guy than we did for any other one so far. Even though we got it 5 rolls earlier than we did on Gem. But these things cost 100 Dragonite more per roll. Plus the other components costing more. Alright, let's go use a major orange on this. Go use a major green on it. Go get it fully metalled with the thingies. Which we actually just got from the most recent Legends Reborn event. So we got a full free set from that. Well, technically not free. It was 1,350 gems, but you know, kind of free. We'll throw our bronze medal here. We'll throw our silver. I just realized I have less bronze than silver right now. How's that possible? We'll use our gold, which I was about right. I said we had about 60 earlier. We have 57 left after this guy. And there we go. All right, well, let's go build a proper team with him. And by a proper team, I mean, let's just put one of each dragon onto a team and see what happens. The answer is it's not going to work that well, but we're still going to try it just for fun. Let's see. Alright, let me go get... how do I even do this? Let me do it by base rarity. Actually, let me do it this way. This will be the easiest way to bring them up. There we go. Every 6-color dragon. Okay. So we'll use you in first. I didn't even realize his mana cost is so much higher. There we go. There's one of every 6-color dragon on one team. And of course, they gain the benefit. Oh, I didn't think about that. That is one funny benefit. Obviously, you get the 4x dragon bonus. But you also get that very small bonus you get for having all pure color. Because they're all different 6-colored unit. So we're getting the blue bonus, the green bonus, the red bonus, the yellow bonus. I've never seen this before. Because you would never really do this practically at any point. Unless you were doing like Wanda Stars with Flower Dragon, Stellaryx, and like Diamantina or something. But, yeah, it's funny. Because never would you be using a team that's only 6-color troop. Obviously, this is not a viable team, but I just want to go mess with it real quick. I guess we'll go double blue here. It doesn't really matter too much since they're all using literally every color. Alright. And we don't need set hero because obviously there's no hero here. But yeah, now we can kind of see what they look like side by side, stats-wise and everything, relative to mana cost. So, of course, Diamantina is the lowest mana cost. It was the first one that came out. Has the least amount of damage. But it does give a lot of magic whenever you take a skull, which is pretty nice. And it gives it to all allies. This one barely has any extra damage at a 4 higher mana cost, but has the ability to curse and terror. And it also has the small chance of reviving and everything. Stellaryx really starts to boost up the damage, where we're going to like 50% higher damage category almost compared to, you know, like Diamantina and everything. And has really good extra turn rate because aside from the normal extra turn rate that most of them have, it also creates stars, 3 elemental and 3 umbral, which would eventually be 4/4 if you get that one tower upgrade as well. And then damage really starts ramping up once you go to Flower Dragon, where we're almost at a 2x category compared to Diamantina. We're like 50% more compared to Evil Dragon. And also gets mass mana accumulation, which is from Explode, which is guaranteed amount of value, while still having that extra turn rate. Alright, let's go take that. But yeah, let's go mess with the Evil Dragon. Which will still one-shot here. But of course, his extra utilities, he has Terror and Curse. Yeah, let's go build a real team around him. I just did this mostly to compare them side by side to see all their stats and everything. I like the difference between each one. But yeah, let's go build a real team around Evil real quick. So for this, we want to have Empower, Essentia, and then like one other thing, and we should be good to go. So I'll put this in there. We'll go for Essentia. Then I guess we just go, what, Wanda Star's Dragon Guard? And just kind of use only him, just so we kind of see his ability and everything properly. Maybe even get a Terror kill in there. But yeah, I'll just run him as how you kind of would like a Flower, Stellaryx or something. Just run one of it and be good to go. Anything special we need to set? I guess we could technically go Dragon Guard here. I wish he had Burn, though. If he had Curse Burn, that would be so good. Because then you would get absurd Dragon Guard value. It'd be way stronger than simply just doing a, Terror that he's doing. But there we go. It's actually something that's surprisingly non-existent in the game. There is no really good Burning Dragon. That seems like something that would be like a no-brainer to add at some point. But we really don't have a Burning Dragon in the game, which sounds kind of sad. You'd kind of expect that to be, you know, one you would put in. But we still, to this day, do not have a viable Burning Dragon. We have viable things that boost ratio based on Burning that are Dragon. But none of them are actually Burning Dragons. It feels like a really weird missing mechanic from Dragons. That they don't have a good burn mechanic. They have a good burn boost ratio mechanic, but not a good burn mechanic. Oh, we're still at one-shot range. I'm hoping we can find a battle that doesn't get immediately obliterated. His damage is still lower than Flower Dragon and Stellaryx, but it's still pretty high, of course. It's still a pretty high number. Yeah, Shugart somewhat does. It's just really clunky to use because it's not a good burner. It did get a little bit more viable when they made it max shiny, though. But yeah, there's his mechanic. So they kind of get reshuffled from the Terror and their Curse, so they'll override their immunities. So anything that has a Pervious just gets overwritten. And this has an okay amount of damage. But yeah, it's very niche when you bring this guy out. I can't really think of a situation where you'd really bring him out, though. Unless we ever get something that's like an absurdly good Terror boost ratio in the future. Maybe we get like a Midnight Troop or something. Obviously, you also bring it out for Blade of Lands. Like, this is really good for a Blade of Lands event week. For those rare circumstances where they roll around. Oh no, I just feel like a lot of times you would just get more value from Yellow Silence Dragon. From the Evil Dragons. It's less damage than what this guy's doing and is only covering 3 colors instead of 6. Which I guess that's his main gimmick. But you could technically use Wand of Stars for that, which makes him kind of in a weird category. Because his main gimmick is he's a 6-color option that has Curse. But you know what else is a 6-color option that has Curse and you can use for other things? Wand of Stars! So his biggest gimmick is something you could already do with Wand of Stars. Because ultimately it's just a 4 times Curse that uses every color. Is like his strongest gimmick. The only other difference he has is he has like pure damage rather than mana accumulation like Wand of Stars does. Where his damage output's actually really strong. But his main gimmick is just being a 4 times cursor that happens to use every color. Which is something Wand of Stars already does with half his ability. Which just goes to show how broken Wand of Stars is. Obviously he doesn't have the damage attached to it, but it's basically just this mythic. For half the mana cost. If you ignore the damage and Terror, it is literally just this mythic for half the mana cost, Wand of Stars. Obviously that damage and Terror does do something, though. We already got a Terror kill here. Obviously he's killing everything as our sole damage source, something you can't do with Wand of Stars, obviously. But of course when you use Wand of Stars, you generally use it with a, you know, something that does the damage. Yeah, that's the other big issue with him. I'm not sure why they made him 34 mana cost. He definitely feels more like 32 or 30 or something similar. I guess not to compete with Diamantina, they didn't want to make him 30 or something. But 34 definitely seems too high for how average his ability is. The other problem is a lot of his traits only really work when you're, like, losing, in a sense. Because he has, well, we could show him one of these battles. But he has, like, almost all of this doesn't really do much. Like, his whole revive and everything like that. The skulls, the Uber Doom skulls, isn't giving you any alignment value, just making you explode a little bit more. Like, a lot of his traits really don't do much on an average battle. But yeah, he's definitely okay. He's definitely usable. It's just if you already own Stellaryx and Flower Dragon, I just don't really see many situations where you're bothering to bring this guy out. Alright, let's go clear through all the other dailies and everything we need to go do. I gotta go do double buff, and we need to go and then do like 3 battles after, which I guess we'll mess with the Dragon team again when we do that. But let's go get all of our buffs out of the way, go get our 3 more Evil Dragon kills. And unless there's anything else we want to mess with him, I'm not sure there's much we need to do with him at the moment. Yeah, 2 Uber Doom Skulls can be okay. It's just 40% is pretty inconsistent for it. But if it was to happen, you're getting 20 extra damage and quite a bit of explode value from it. But it also implies you have something on the team to actually be able to utilize it. Because it's very rare you're actually going to be able to get a skull match out of it unless you're, you know, like mash destroying the board or something. But it's definitely not bad. It's just when you already own Flower Dragon and Stellaryx, there's just almost no instance you bring it out other than like Blighted Lands. And if you truly need like a 4 times Cursed Terror mechanic for some reason, and you don't want to do that with Wand of Stars or some other troop. But otherwise, he's just weaker damage Stellaryx or weaker damage Flower Dragon. He also has a far less chance of extra turning compared to the other 2, as he has no additional follow-up. It's a big issue Diamantina has. That and Diamantina just kind of got power crept out by damage. But the other issue Diamantina has is its low extra turn rate compared to Flower Dragon or Stellaryx. And Evil Dragon has the same problem, where it has a really low extra turn rate relative to them. Because these have the base rate, but then also have an extra mechanic on top of it, like this one exploding all skulls, or Stellaryx creating a little bit of each star, which becomes even stronger with that one brown buff. But Evil Dragon doesn't have a mechanic like that. So it ends its turn a lot more often. I'll catch you later, Ron. Have a good Easter. Because this probably is our last Gems of War stream before Easter. We'll still be doing other streams, just not specifically Gems of War. Plus, we'll have the Friday video. As far as streams, this is the last one before Easter. So hope all you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Easter. If anyone still has any other questions or anything you want me to go over, let me know. Because once we clear our PvP here, we'll probably call it for tonight. But yeah, Evil Dragon has pretty much all the issues we kind of expected it to have. It's not that bad, though. But Dragon Order definitely seems like go all in on Flower Dragon. Then go into Evil Dragons only until you get Yellow Evil Dragon. Then go into Cosmic Dragons. And then after that, start saving for whatever the next set's going to be. You might even not even go for Cosmics and just wait for whatever the 3rd set's going to be, depending on where you're at. Or you just go for all Flower Dragons immediately because they're so strong. Then go for just Yellow Evil Dragon, and then maybe just save the rest of your Dragonite for the next set in a year. Because sometime next year we'll get another set, of course, most likely. We don't know if they're going to be better or worse or what, but we will be getting another set most likely. So whatever they are, might want to save for them in case they are good. But Flower Dragon's still the best set by far. It's not even close. They are really strong. Not to mention, some of the colored Flower Dragons are insanely good value. Like the blue one in Zolkiri has higher base damage than the 6-colored Flower Dragon. Like, it literally has better starting damage than Chrysathornax. If you use a 4 times Zolkiri team, you're getting so much magic bonus from the Kingdom bonus that you actually outdamage output Flower Dragon. The only reason you see me almost never using it, other than like Zolkiri restriction, is because pure Zolkiri team with him is very unsynergetic. Because there's almost like no blue creation and other similar things in the kingdom. But if they ever got it, that troop would just go through the roof as far as overall value. Also doesn't have the mass explode mechanic. It has some kind of other mechanic or whatever the other Flower Dragons have. But it actually has higher base damage than the Chrysathanax 6-colored one. Only in a 4x Valkyrie team, though. Which obviously is very rare that you're ever bothering to run 4x Valkyrie. And not to mention Purple Flower Dragon as well. Well, this is kind of applicable to a lot of the dragons, the Dragonite dragons. But Purple Flower Dragon is really good for next Guild War. Because next Guild War is Sword's Edge restriction. And Purple Flower Dragon is Sword's Edge. It doesn't have too much synergy within the kingdom, but it's a really good option relative to how bad the kingdom is. Alright, let's go get all of our Valhawks using Evil Dragon. But yeah, it's nothing crazy. It's not weak. It's not like over-the-top strong. For how expensive it is, it's definitely not worth the Dragonite, I don't feel like. Obviously, we'd get it for completion's sake and to have it in case we ever do need it. But this thing is really expensive for how barely good it is. Not that it's bad. But it is so expensive to get relative to how average it is. Technically slightly above average. But, you know, compared to, like, Flower Dragon or Stellarix, I'm considering it average. Like, obviously, compared to an average troop, he's still way above. So when a Blighted Lands event comes around, he's obviously really good for that. Because he's the strongest thing in all of Blighted Lands. He also allows you to set up your triple damage burning you need for that kingdom. Because while that kingdom does have some amount of curse, this is definitely your strongest curse option. And that one in power that I think does curse at start of battle. I believe it's from Blighted Lands. So now you have like double curse option into empower into like a triple damage burning. So this really buffed, if nothing else, Blighted Lands 4x burning team. Like whenever you're building like a proper 4x burning team in that location, to be able to go get your extra damage from like Baphomet or whatever he's called. Ends up having some really good synergy there. And of course he uses purple for when you do the empower convert as well, which is really nice. Yeah, it's not bad. But his extra turn rate being so much lower is the main thing kind of holding him back, I would say. That, and why didn't they make him 34 mana cost? This definitely felt like it should have been like 32 or lower. 34 was just a bit too high. Not like it matters most of the time, but there's no reason why he should have been the same as like Flower Dragon for mana cost. His lack of follow-up is what really hurts him a lot. Like, even on a skull with like 10 skulls, we still did not get it. Because his boost ratio is not that high. But yeah, overall, he's still decent. It's just... it's very rare that you would bring him out if you already have all the other stuff. Like, not counted Blighted Lands restriction, I can't really see too many instances, or some kind of weird terror mechanic in the future. Or if you really wanted Curse and didn't want to run something else. I can't really see too many instances where you'd bring him out otherwise. Over Flower Dragon or Stellarix or something. And you have to, like, really deliberately go out of your way to get him. It's not like you're just, like, accidentally going to get him like a drop, like some mythics in the game. Like, you're not going to accidentally get him. You have to go out of your way for, like, almost a year of Dragonite. Or at least half a year, or however long it would take. To go and actually, like, deliberately go and get him. It's not like a mythic that's, like, okay average value, where it's like, oh, you just randomly get it one day. And it's like, oh, yeah, I'll be able to use that one day. Like, if you randomly got something like, oh, no, what's a good example here? Like, Arachnean Weaver. Like, it's definitely less meta in the current state of the game, but, you know, you would still use it for Guild War Elf Defend, or still some other instances you bring it out, stuff like that. Like, if you randomly got this from a drop, it's like, okay, it's not the best thing in the world, but, you know, you can still use it. But you don't really randomly get the evil dragons. Like, you have to deliberately go out of your way to go get them. And that's a lot that you have to go out of your way for how average he is. Relative to the other, you know, Dragonite dragons. He's still better than Diamantina, obviously, but, barely. Barely. But yeah, he's about exactly what we thought he'd be. But we still have to get him for completion's sake, of course. And we will be able to use him pretty well in the next Blighted Lands event. That's the main thing we'll be using him for. He's really good for Blighted Lands restriction. Especially when you compare him to, like, what you have as options in Blighted Lands. Not that Blighted Lands is weak, but he's a huge buff to it overall still. Mostly because it helps fill a lot of colors you don't normally use. Like, green, I think, was one of them that doesn't get used as much from this kingdom. At least as far as, like, the really meta stuff here. But, yeah, quite a few things you can end up synergizing it with. Most notably, Baphomet. Baphomet really cares about the enemy being burned. Because not only does his ability do double damage, but his skulls do triple damage against burning enemies. And this is a really good way to make sure that you can end up doing that. There already are ways of doing that within this kingdom. For example, I think there's the Empower... Was the Empower 4 times Curse from this kingdom? Yeah, Slammer Stew. No, this isn't the one. Oh, no. The troop that I thought was actually from a different kingdom. Wait, what kingdom is that from? What is the 4 times... Oh, it's from... I remember now. I don't even need to search it to know. It's from Sinner Mirage. Because they made it Bane of something. Bane of Mercy, I think. I think it was Bane of Mercy. Yeah, this was the troop I was thinking of. This isn't Blade of Lands. This is Sinner Mirage. It has 4 times Curse to start a battle. So you know what? That actually is really good for Blade of Lands then. Because Blade of Lands does not have an absurdly good 4 times Curse. Until now. So yeah, you know what? That's actually not that bad then. But it's only going to be really useful for a 4 times Blade of Lands team, which, you know, how often is you using that? But it's really good as like Pandemonia with Baphomet, with like one of the Empowers here just for mana accumulation. Like, you know, one of the purple ones or something. And then just running that with like Hero running some weapon is a really, really strong team for this kingdom. So I guess that's his main use case. Blighted Lands. Same as a lot of mythics. Like the mythic coming out this Friday, you're only going to use it for Dwarf and Keyzil. A lot of troops are starting to come into that category because they got to compete with things that are just already so broken. Like they got to compete with Wand of Stars, they got to compete with Flower Dragon, they got to compete with the other few weapons that are really strong. They got to compete with, you know, other just generally good mythics like the Trog Goblin we just got last season for PvP. It's really hard for the average troop to compete with that. But what they can compete with pretty well is whenever they're in a category like this. Because while he's not over the top for general play, he's way over the top for Blade of Lands. He's one of the strongest, if not the strongest troop in all of Blade of Lands. So when you compare it like that, a lot of troops become a lot better. Like, for example, this Mythic that we're getting this Friday. He is far from the best damage source in the game. But when you compare him to, you know, what you have access to in Keyzil, he should be the strongest damage source in all of Keyzil. Because Ares is really inconsistent and not that much damage. This thing does AoE, but it's not that much damage. This thing is literally just a tank. This is literally just a tank. And these are just all, like, mixed options. There aren't really anything good for absurd damage. Until... Not this one. But until something like... where'd it go? Wait, where's the page that has it? One of these pages is the right page. I got too many tabs open here. This one? There we go. But this is the mythic we're getting on Friday. And this thing has insane damage. It has 1-to-1 based on all of his armor. And he does heavy splash. So he's doing 75% to 2 adjacent troops. So he's basically hitting for his armor value, like for 2.5 times damage. Because he's hitting for full value on what he's hitting, and then 75% to the 2 adjacents. That is so much damage compared to anything you see here. But when you compare it to like a troop like Flower Dragon or something else, you know, a general damage source, even just Tesla, stuff like that, it is basically 0 damage. But in the context of Keyzil, it's the strongest damage source in all of Keyzil by quite a margin, actually. It's competing with fully shinied King Highforge, which is one of the better ones there currently, because you have to use him for a pure dwarf team anyways. And you'll be using it with this new guy as well, because you know, he's a dwarf. But unfortunately with full mana conflict. But this guy is way better damage than anything you have there. So even though he's a pretty average mythic, you know, there's instances like that where they come through. And that's where the Evil Dragon is mostly going to shine. You're mostly using it for 4 times Blight of Lands teams. Which is a pretty niche thing to use such a strong dragon for. But realistically, that's the only thing you could really use him for. Let's see. Also, as Ron mentioned, definitely feel free to leave a like on the stream. Helps a lot and is greatly appreciated. Is Underspire worth completing fully this week? I would say no. I'm probably just doing the free battles. And by probably, I mean I'm just doing the free battles. But yeah, we're just running with like a double King Mikhail with Enrage. You don't even need Enrage. You just run triple King Mikhail if you really want to. Maybe put like the 50% mana start for Urska there instead. Which honestly I might even do, because for these earlier fights, I don't even need that at the moment. Where's the, what's it called? There it is. Because for the very early fights, we don't even need the extra damage. We're gonna get more from just half mana starting everything. But yeah, it's basically spam King Mikhail until you win. And if you're just doing the earlier fights, this team should actually run the entire time. You just run double King Mikhail, feed it some mana off a weapon, and you're good to go, and just 50% mana start it. And just do the free battles. This is what we're doing this week. It's definitely fine to fully complete out this week. It's a little slow towards the later end. You could try devouring them and everything, but if you're trying to AoE them down, your damage output is really, really low. It doesn't really get too much better than King Mikhail or Enrage Carandera. And Enrage Carandera just requires so much mana accumulation. And the best you have is like, you know, Explodey Weapon or something. So you don't really get that much towards it. Also, before we go, I gotta go do 5 more battles. We can't leave that hanging. And since we're running Evil Dragon, let's go run Dragon Battle, I guess. We'll do like 5 battles with Evil. just to mess around with them some for the sake of it. So we'll go run 5 more Evil Dragon battles, then we'll call it there. So if anyone still has any other questions, let me know. And after that, we'll go claim the extra reward there, and then call it there. Until next week, though we'll be covering the Mythic this Friday. It's not too bad. It's basically a Mythic version of Paladin. And while it has been over a decade, Paladin was meta at one point. There was a point where Paladin was the strongest troop in the game. This Mythic version of them is definitely not going to be. But it's the strongest troop in KZL, if nothing else, at least from a damage output perspective. So is that going forward, if nothing else? But it's basically this Mythic Paladin is what we're getting. Mythic Paladin as a dwarf instead of a knight. Yeah, he's still pretty strong. He can triple one-shot depending on how much armor you have on him. Like, that's not weak. It's just we have 4 times one-shot with mass mana accumulation, so compared to that, he's kind of weak. But he's not that weak. Because if you're at a point where 75% adjacent can kill, he's triple killing per cast. You can also angle... Oh no, Silence Dragon. You can also angle it in a way that you will re-hit the summons. Like if they don't have Stealthy and you hit a 3rd slot to kill 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and then they revive, they're going to be revived next to the 1st slot. So if you target 3rd and then target 2nd, you would kill the entire team even if they resummon. There's one thing that's really good about this upcoming Mythic. That's like his main game plan loop as far as winning. Is kill 3rd slot, then kill 2nd, and you just wipe their whole team even if they get resummoned. But he has the really big downside of a lot of troops like that, and if he starts losing his armor, he loses all value. So even though he has 50% score reduction, you definitely don't want to run him in 1st slot. You could kind of get in the way of putting him in like 2nd or 3rd or something. But you definitely don't want to put him in 1st, even though he has 50% score reduction. So I just realized, did I not give him the dwarf trait? I just noticed that now. There's like, wait, he should have all the immunities. They didn't give him the dwarf trait. I hope they change that by the time it happens. They did not give him the dwarf trait that gives him 1 billion immunities. I just now noticed that. Why did they give him Dwarven Shield instead of that? Because if we had the dwarf trait, Stone Skin, and you know that wouldn't be as bad. But why is he a dwarf without the dwarf trait? Is there even any with that? Or without it? Maybe that'll get changed before it comes out. Because, yeah, that's really bad if he doesn't get it. Because that means he doesn't have immune to stun or stuff like that. Like, you know, all the normal things in that category. He has to have a lot of immunities that he otherwise wouldn't have that every other dwarf would. It's the same one that's on Hero as well. It's, this one. Ends up giving, immune to stun, poison, disease, death mark, lycanthropy, and devour. But yeah, they didn't end up getting it. Wait, is it a construct? Oh. Ooh, wait, that's actually interesting. If it's not dwarf and construct, that means you can use 50% mana star on it. I thought it would be like a dwarf construct or something, but maybe it's just construct. But that means you could do it with Geomancer angle. What other constructs are in KZL? I know there's a couple. I don't think there was any that viable, though, other than him. Because that means you could basically build like a pure construct team. Just using Geomancer instead. What am I looking for? I'm looking for construct. Yeah, there's a couple. Nothing too over the top, though. Dwarven Gate's kind of nice, though. With the barrier and everything. But, yeah, there's not too many good constructs here. They're really average or underwhelming. But it'll definitely be the strongest construct here. Because, yeah, you can run it with Geomancer. Geomancer gives 50% mana start to all constructs off its perk thingy. Which, of course, would start him with 12 mana out of 24. Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad, then. I don't know. We'll mess around with him this Friday and see how it goes. But anyways, guys, yeah, we'll be back on next week's Monday. I hope you all have a wonderful Easter. We'll be covering the video on Friday, going over the new Mythic. And, yeah, we'll see what we can do. He's definitely going to be good for Dwarf. He's definitely going to be good for... Well, I guess not Dwarf. I guess Construct now. But he's definitely going to be good for Construct. He'll definitely be good for Kazale. Not sure you're going to reuse him much beyond that, though. But he's pretty usable. He's just a really big armor boost ratio troop, kind of like Paladin and a few others in that category, where you just give it a bunch of armor. He just goes in 2 shots a team, and you're good to go. Still probably weaker than just running a Tesla or something similar, or even Rowain and, you know, other teams. But there are use cases for him. I'll mess around with him then, as it is a pretty solid amount of damage. But anyways, guys, hope you all have a wonderful week, a wonderful Easter, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.